Anyway, Sandra Shelton, founder and CEO of StrengthBank Inc., is an international speaker, author, and workplace engagement expert. With a background in secondary education, corporate management, and entrepreneurship, she tells it like it is with humor. Sandra will present the CCC strategy for growing business and at the same time strengthening Bridgeport through mentoring up its high school teams. Please help me welcome Sandra.
Now that he scared you to death that you're going to have to do a backflip or something, you know, I don't know where to start with that. Thank you very much, Mike. I'm delighted to be here. When he said corporate speaker, I started in secondary education, but I will tell you that the reason I'm coming to Bridgeport with this program is because of people like you in corporate presentations who kept saying, as I was developing this thing called StrengthBank, Bank of Strengths. Each of us has a unique bank of strengths. Used as designed, our lives work better. And I started doing all the people issues, and the more I would do them, and the more I developed the concept, I would have people like you come up to me at the break and say, "I have anything for teenagers?" So I sort of began to sense there was a need to ask you a question as we get started, just to kind of get you in the framework of where we're going. From the earliest time you can remember, now just think back a minute. Think back to elementary school or before elementary school. From your earliest memory of you, what was that thing that you could always see yourself doing? You know what I mean? That big time dream. That thing that you thought, oh, I want to be or maybe you didn't tell anybody, you just saw it. For me, I remember seeing myself, and you know, I'm going to date myself, but I could see myself on a TV screen on the Ed Sullivan Show. Okay, all right. Some of you don't even know what that means. Just roll with it, all right? But I remember that so clearly. And it was a direction, but I didn't know how I was going to get there then. So don't think of anything. What was it for you that, and it may still be out there, just, I want you to take a minute, turn to the person to your left, and just say, you know what? I remember that big time dream of mine was to get on your mark. You've only got 30 seconds. Go.
Service signature.
I wanted to be a storm chaser. My mother did not like that idea.
5 seconds.
Just need to get a sure
Stop in the name of love. Okay. Did you see what happened? Tell me what happened in the room when I asked you that question. What began to happen in the room? Conversation. What kind of conversation? Was it a positive conversation? I heard some laughter. I heard some whoa, you know. That's the beginning of a talk group. You see, everybody has that starting place. Some of you are going, well, I don't know, I don't remember. But even at that, there's a place we can start. And the kind of conversation that you just heard, believe it or not, that's where it begins with teens. This isn't rocket science. It's heart science, if you will. When I went to first started the program, and it was a matter of really hearing the cry and thinking, what should I do? I love teenagers are just my favorite. I taught in secondary education for 7 years, English, speech, drama, and journalism. And so I didn't quit teaching because I didn't like teaching. I just had a sense I was supposed to do something else and then come back into teaching or education in a new way. My something else was I was a meat manufacturing rep for a meat company. And I got to tell you that comparing carcasses of animals, because I would go around and talk about to Bennigan's, Steak and Ale, Boston Sea Party, some of those exist, some of them don't anymore, about their meat quality, you know, your fatty trim on the steaks we sent you. It was a company out of Fort Worth called Standard Meat Company. You might be familiar with it. And I went from teenagers to that. Stark change. And I wore those little white coats and those white hard hats, and I thought, you know, this isn't living for me. And really, that's where I learned the rest of the story that we've used in the talk groups, because I was a miserable human being for 3.5 years, and I hope nobody else has to be there. And I got to thinking about and asking my audiences about what would it be like if you had a different starting point. So again, kind of where they started. So I went to Washington, D.C., National Association of Secondary School Principals, because I didn't know really where to start, so I started in D.C. Don't ask me why. I just thought, well, that seemed a good thing to do. If I want to start this program in education, went to the Department of Education and so forth, and of course all that really came to nothing. But it did give me some information. And the information was the head, and I cannot remember his name, Ruben or Rubio or something like that. He said to me, he said, Sandra, he said, you've really hit on something. We do a lot of things for elementary, we do a lot of things for junior high, but sort of when they get to high school, we decide they're done, and we're not sure really what to do with them. And I will never forget that. That has been my motivator, my driver. And every time I go into a teen talk group and begin a new one, I remember that because these kids are not done as teenagers. They may look like adults, they may smell like adults, they may walk like adults, but they aren't yet. And there's still a lot of mentoring left to do. But something's kind of going awry. Let's talk about that a minute. What do you think the graduation rate is in the United States today? What do you think the high school graduation rate is? Anybody?
45.
60's close. 68.8 was the latest statistic I just heard on Diplomas Count yesterday. I did a webinar a couple of days ago, I guess. That's the current figure. Now, what's interesting about that is that in 1969, guess what it was? 77.1%. Okay, we are going the wrong direction. And I don't think that's a shock to anybody, but I think it's something that we need to think about. Why are kids dropping out? Why would you say kids are dropping out? Why are we getting greater dropout numbers? Why? What? Not relevant. What else?
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares. What else? Say again? Can't pass the tax. Nobody cares, can't pass the tax, not relevant. Any others? Bored. Oh, I've heard that. They'll do videos on some of the youth things, and they'll say, why did they drop out? And they say, well, they're just bored, which is back to not relevant.
Lack of parental guidance.
Lack of parental guidance. There are lots of reasons, but the fact is, it is happening. Let me ask you this. Say, oh, that's terrible. But, at one point in 1870, now you did hear that number, right? 1870, our graduation rate was 2%. Okay, different time. All right? That's not going to work today. We don't want to go back down to 2%, I don't think. But why? Why is working on the graduation rate important? Why? What does it matter to you as the community? Why? They're your leaders tomorrow. They're your frontline employees today. They're your neighbors. They're the ones who either do or don't vandalize. Okay, are we getting real close to it now? They are the ones that are or are not dating your brother or your sister or your son or your daughter. They are the ones who have the future in their hands, and when you get to be in your 80s, they're the ones that are going to be caring for you. What do you think it's going to look like if they don't have... You see what I'm getting to? So we know it's important, but what do we do about it? Do we tutor them? Do we tutor them to the tax? I think we're doing a good job of that. You have some excellent teachers. I think the problem is that we're relying on teachers to do it all, and it's just not going to happen. Because if you'll think about what you just said, nobody cares is a big one. I don't see the relevance to it. Well, it's very difficult for a teacher to handle all of that because we've got to get core curriculum out, and there's the TEKS and all of this. I'm not saying don't tutor. I'm saying let's step up and mentor. You see, mentoring is basically listening. It's not talking, it's listening. And here's what you mentor them to. And every time I give this definition in front of a group of new teenagers, I get chills. Their faces change and their hearts begin to move. Here's the definition of StrengthBank. Here's where they start. StrengthBank is the plan for your life that will prosper and not harm you, that will give you hope and a future. I'm telling you, they haven't heard anybody say that. And when they hear that, and it's to them, now that's at the beginning of the group, you just see the faces change. Now after they've been in a StrengthBank Talk Group for a while, and I should say at this point, you see my lovely camera person there, is Sarah Schindler, and she's in one of my talk groups this summer. So you can ask her a question. She's only been in 3, but it's summer. We just got started. But after they've been in the StrengthBank Talk Groups, they come in and we bring in guests, and we've had some people in your community come in as guests. They can introduce themselves not only by what they know the plan is, but specifically why it's going to fit for them. You think that'll make a difference? Do you think that changes things? It changes everything. They need to tell what is within them, and then everything else becomes relevant, because that's what we talk about. I mean, high school graduation is the first step to just about every plan. It's not really hard to make that segue. But I'm going to ask you, what are you sowing into youth, you personally? We reap what we sow, more than we sow, and later than we sow. I am amazed at some of the kids from 7 years ago that will come back to me and say what a difference it made. And it thrills me, because then I know maybe they're going to mentor in their community. You see? It's a process of understanding the community can take part, the community can be a part. And you're saying, well, yeah, but, I've got this business to run, and I'm not sure how this fits in my business strategy. Let me tell you, let me just share with you something. The 3 C's. Here's the best business strategy you will ever know. And it's thinking backwards. Most of the times we think our business, we want to give great customer service, we want to network and meet these people and then show them how we contribute to whatever it is we're doing, contributes to their life or to their business or whatever, and that's great. But what about if we think backwards? If things aren't working, maybe if we step up, maybe if we contribute first. Contribute first. It changes the way I come to you. So you contribute first. When you contribute, then come conversations. Then comes connection, not for just a customer, but lifetime customers. And these kids, are they going to be out in your community? Are they going to be in a position to be your vendor or your customer? You betcha. And are their kids and are their parents and wherever they happen to be? Sure. I'll give you an example. When I thought of that, my mother went to heaven on April 12th this year. And I'd been her full-time care for 7 years. It was very difficult. And an insurance agent named Maxine, she's my favorite story. I had met her talking about mother's long-term care because I was trying to figure out how to get some help, because I was kind of going down the tubes. And I didn't want to put her in a nursing home, but I wanted her to have good care and so forth and so on and so on. So she kind of helped me walk through an insurance policy. She came out to the house a couple of times, and finally it came to, well, no, mother's policy was an old policy. It wouldn't allow for assisted living, blah, blah, blah. That was the end of it, I thought. Well, then she just kept checking in with me. No particular reason. How's your mom? Did things work out? Well, then eventually she called, or I called her, because we had checked in enough, and I just told her that Mama was gone. And she said, oh, I'm so sorry. I'll be over there Wednesday. I know you need help with details. Contribute. She came over and she sat me down and she said, okay, this is Wednesday. Now, these are the only 3 things you have to do between now and Saturday, and I'll come back Saturday and we'll look at it again. Bosom buddy. We talked about, I found out her mother had died and there had been some issues, and I was able to had no idea until she contributed to my life for no reason. Now let me ask you a question. When I have a next insurance need, who's the obvious connection I'm going to go to? Maxine, I already have. Isn't that interesting? You see, what you contribute to this community is your wonderful businesses, and that's great. But what about the next generation coming in? What about reaching down before they're even maybe the sole decision maker about choosing your business? You see a brochure, you say, well, I don't know how to do that. Besides, I'm not very comfortable with high school kids. Okay, well, I understand that. Some teachers like elementary, some like junior high. God love the junior high teachers. Oh, my stars. I started in junior high and I thought, Lord, if I could just live through this year, I promise you I'll be a better person. But anyway, so I really understand that. So you're saying, not me. But you know someone, or you can sponsor someone. Let me tell you what we do. We do a certification session, which is just like a professional growth seminar. If you go to Patrick Thompson, Career Track, anybody else, it's going to be about $79 to $125, depending on what the subject is. Our price is $60, and I did forget to put it on the brochure, so, my bad. But You could sponsor someone. That includes materials, and it sets you up. You don't have to think about what to do. It's very simple things, just like where I started with you. What was the question I started and I asked you first? Do you remember? What's that thing, that big time dream? That's where we start. Let me ask you a question out of curiosity. Raise your hand if you're living your big time dream. Okay, that's not nearly enough hands. Here's my personal vision. See, I am, and I tell the kids, and once they get to know me, they go, oh yeah, you wouldn't be good at these other things. This is my thing. My hope, that floats, and they learn that too. My hope is that when I come into a Chamber of Commerce luncheon, when these kids are back in the community and they've grown up and they're having kids, say in about 7, 10 years, I hope when I ask that question that nearly every hand in the place goes up. Do you think that changed things? Do you think that take away the oh but? See, we get the oh but I can't out of the way in the talk groups. You see how powerful that is? They tell you things that they don't even realize until you kind of set them up, just like I just set you up, to get to thinking in a direction that it's already there. We don't tell them anything. Talk groups aren't to tell you what to do. Talk groups are to listen as you discover what's already there. And then we encourage with it. And I think the best thing about talk groups is that once they know, and I love to have visitors come in, like I said, because they introduce themselves, and some of them change. Like I had one little girl that wanted to be a photographer, and at first it was just, a photographer of animals, and then it was a portrait photographer, and now it's owning her own photographic studio. So, I mean, they change, but they know that's okay because they're growing with it. But what I love about it is when they walk in for that 45 minutes, they are responded to as their future specifically. And I will guess that in most cases, from what they tell me and from what I see, most kids are not responded to by their future that specifically, the one they decided on, the one that's in their heart, the one they're designed for. It's pretty exciting. So if you're, concerned about being with teenagers, okay, I can buy that. But you know someone who'd be great with them. And let me tell you, you have other organizations in this town. I will come. I will present this overview. I will answer questions. I'll do demonstrations. Anything that will help you, move you to say, I need to do this. Look at the brochure for a minute. Let me show you what's in it. And when you leave it, you may want to pick up an extra. Take it back. If you own a business, you may want to allow your employees the opportunity to mentor. And how long does it take? 45 minutes twice a month. Hey, you spend that time in lunch. Okay? Just think of it as lunch twice a month, all right? Notice on the front, there is a website. And at the bottom it says talkgroupsmentors.org, Bridgeport ISD. The local contacts, this brochure with the correction on it that has the price, is there. There's a mentor talk chat group that's there, but all the updates are always going to be there so we can stay connected. When you open this up, you see some of the features of the concept, and you see in the middle of the page 2 key mentor requirements. And it tells you there are 13 talk groups over the school term. When are they? Back panel. They're all listed on the back panel. That's the commitment. 45 minutes, 13 times over 9 months. And the second commitment is to come to the certification seminar. Now, it'll be in August. The exact date will be announced right there. We just have the week that it's going to be. And then look on the sign-up form, and you may even want to do this. Look on the back where it says fill in. Notice at the top, I want to serve as a mentor at Bridgeport High School. Check that box. Secondly, I'll feel free to mentor or recruit a partner. That's fine. 2 mentors in a group is fine. That way, if one's absent or something, the teacher will always be. The teachers are going to get an overview. In fact, at the certification, the teachers will be there, and we'll partner up teachers and mentors. So we'll get all that clarified before we ever start the groups. Third box, I'm not ready to commit, but I'm interested. Talk to me further. We'll call you. What questions do you have? Is something bugging you? What's keeping you from either saying yes or saying, I know someone that would love to do this? Folks, we need 60 mentors. Now, this town is plenty big enough to get 60 mentors. And in fact, you don't even have to be from Bridgeport. You might be from Boyd. You might be from Haslett. I mean, we're not, boundary bound. These kids are going to be all over the area. And then there's your contact information. Notice on down. You might know someone else who would be a good mentor. Give us their name. We'll be glad to contact them if you would like for us to. And then at the bottom, we have to have a background check. Come on, folks, this is 2010, you've got to consent to a background check. That means you fill out a little form and say yes. So if you're a felon, I wouldn't suggest you check off that or you can check off and pretend, and then we'll tell you later if you don't know you're a felon, but I'm pretty sure we don't have anybody in that category. On the back again, note are the dates. Now, is there any piece of information, because we're going to reprint these, this is the first printing we've done for this particular implementation. If there's something missing there, and I know the price is missing. By the way, the $60 includes materials, by the way. I know that's missing. But if there's anything else, tell me. I make so many mistakes. I'm just glad when you bring it to my attention. What would help you? Help us. Help kids. Help kids know there is hope. That at the other end of every struggle, no matter what it is, there's hope. Help kids know that you're willing to contribute. Do you not realize what that sows into the life of a young person? When you're there, you're just there. Every talk group day, you care that much. It goes right to your issue of cares. You have to care to show up. Just that alone. And watch them blossom. Some of them, I know, some of them are going to come in. They're going to have their chin on their chest like Nick did in 2003. Nick came in, he had his chin on his chest, and he was just kind of getting through. And I thought, well, just let them go at their own pace, And all of a sudden, about November, Nick started answering questions. And at the end of the year, it was senior year. It was our first year for talk groups. He only got it one school year. And he came up to me at the end of the school year when we had our little celebration. He said, Miss Shelton, I want to thank you for coming. And I said, well, sure, Nick. And he said, I don't know what was wrong, but when I first came in here, I thought, well, you were okay and this is all right, but I don't get a grade for it, so I'm just going to put my chin on my chest and I don't want to get in trouble. And I said, I remember that, Nick. And he said, and then it dawned on me. He said, something happened to me. See, kids are going to surrender to something to order their life. Nick realized, oh my stars, something's happening good to me. And he said, I realized you were just trying to help us. He said, I'll never forget my strength bank. I'll never forget the animals. That's how we show them their equipment. And he said, I am going to invent something so simple, but it's going to make me tons of money, and you're going to love it. Now, he's probably out of college about now. So y'all look for Nick, because he's going to do that. And it taught me so much that you just can't predict where these kids are, but if you show up, if you just keep saying, even if they can't come up with anything, eventually they do. We've had kids come, and they've been at alternative school, and they come in. I had one kid, I have time for just one more quick story, just one more quick, and I know I have to leave. But Alex came in. Alex had been in alternative school. He had multiple piercings, and the leather jacket and all the zippers, and I thought, oh boy. Alex came in the last 3 talk groups. Now keep that in mind. He's only going to get 3 at the end of the year. The other kids, it was like they knew what to do. Because these kids are together from the time they're freshmen through seniors. A fourth of the group changes each year. So they really become supportive of each other. And actually, seniors learn to mentor up the freshmen and sophomores, which is what is cool, because I feel like we're sending out some parenting skills, I think that's kind of good. I mean, this is good stuff. I don't tell them that, of course. But Alex comes in, and they kind of said, I said, okay, we already had an activity between talk groups. And I said, our activity this time, between now and the next talk group, everybody find Alex. Kind of a Where's Waldo deal. I said, Alex, where's your schedule? Well, he could barely talk. I don't know. I said, well, tell us what building you're in. Well, I don't know. And I said, Alex, guess. And he kind of looked up and he said, I said, you got here, didn't you? And he kind of laughed. And so he finally gave us a couple of buildings. Long story short, he came back those 3 talk groups, actually made a whole sentence before the end of the year. The last class at the end of the year, he said to me, I said, what are you going to do, Alex? You're going to keep working at Luby's. He was the dishwasher at Luby's. He said, oh, no, I'm not going to do that anymore. I said, oh, that's a good job. I was just curious. Well, let me know what you do, because next fall, see, you're going to be there. The power of I'll still be here expecting you. You think that'll help the dropout rate? Did with Alex. He came back and went through another 9 weeks. Now, he didn't totally make it, but he got his GED. But he came back for 9 weeks. Does that take courage? Yeah. Did the other kids encourage him because they realized it took courage? Yeah. Those are the kinds of things. You care because you show up. And you just take them through this routine. And after a while, you have kids that really do the routine for you because they know it. I want you to let me know where you want me to come to encourage another group. This is the time. This is the moment. I'm available to you. All the contact information there. When you go out to the site, you'll see it. And here's what's going to happen. When you do the 3 C's, you contribute first, create conversations, and believe it or not, connect with today's teenager, which isn't hard when you start with the contribution. Bridgeport Community is going to reap the 3 S's. Safe, strong, showcase, community. You're going to be the light in this corridor. And I'm so excited. Any questions you have, please see me afterwards, call me, email me. Jamie Sturdivant is here, and she knows everything. Yeah. And if she doesn't, Brian actually came to one of our talk groups. You might ask him about that experience. It was fun to have Brian there. He was like, well, I didn't know what was going on, but all of a sudden I was in the middle of it, so that was kind of fun. So whatever you need, we're going to give it to you, because come fall, I believe it's September 7th, I'm not looking at the date, we're going to be there for your kids and your community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sandra. One question I had is the application, if you're a felon, is that convicted?
Convicted. We'll take the part.
Because